My name's Dan Russell, and I belong to an organisation which represents a forum which represents asylum seekers and refugees in Calderdale. And I just think that refugees and asylum seekers particularly, are even more vulnerable than students, and we're really worried about what's going to happen to them with this new government. And I might remind you that Nick Clegg was actually patron of an organisation called Assist, which is an organisation set up in Sheffield to assist destitute asylum seekers. Now, we have destitute asylum seekers in Halifax, quite a lot of them, and we have an organisation which tries to support them. And we're running out of funds just as it comes up to Christmas, and we are actually having an event in Hebden Bridge on the 18th in the afternoon, where we're going to lie down and pretend to be destitute and try to tug at the heartstrings of rich shoppers in Hebden Bridge and hope that we can raise some money by doing so. So that's one thing I'd like to say, and Audrey here has some leaflets about this event, so anybody who'd like to find out more about it, perhaps you could ask Audrey about the leaflets. The other thing I wanted to say is that I'm certainly not going to do any bickering. I'm not going to stand up either because I'm far too old for that. But we did go to an event on Saturday which was run by an organisation called Uncut. And this was to try and shut down Topshop in Brigade. Unfortunately, this was slightly buggered up by the people with huge banners who arrived outside the shop to start with, and the police took notice. And what I thought we were going to do was to go into the shop, and at a given signal we were going to sit down, lie down, Alice, you don't have to stand up, and we were going to just close the shop. But it didn't happen that way. But in London, in Oxford Street, they closed down 8 stores on the same day, and all over the country have been very successful actions. So I would like you to pay attention to this, because the thing that Uncut have that we haven't talked about at all today is brilliant methods of actually getting their message across. And they're not using websites, they're using Twitter and Facebook, and they're getting the message across to thousands and thousands of people. And I think that if this really takes off, there could be a complete sea change of what people think about these cuts. And one of the things that we were actually talking to people about on a crowded shopping day in Leeds was actually highlighting the fact that Osborne over the next 4 years plans to cut £81 billion in our services, and at the same time, over 4 years, the tax avoidance by the rich corporations and rich individuals is going to amount to 100 billion. Now, there's something that tells me about an alternative way of doing things. Right.
Obviously we're talking about demonstrations to protect a variety of politicians. But I do want to know, what are we actually asking of our councillors? We've got 2 councillors, is it Daniel? Yeah. And Barry, and I don't know. What do we want of them? I think we do have to clarify what we're going to ask of them. Are we going to ask them to... What do we want them to do? I'm not saying we should answer it now, I'm just saying that question should be addressed early on.
You say we've got 2 councillors, I was only aware of 1. Or you're a councillor as well. Would either of you like to speak?
Well, I will. I just wanted to counter that gentleman's point, actually. I say the Labour group, like 4 Tories, really. Really, we had 2 choices on the council. Was to either go into coalition with the Liberal Democrats and try and... the fact is, these cuts are coming from the government, and the council has absolutely no say of what's happening to it. So we had a choice to go in with the Lib Dems and try and manage these cuts and minimise job losses, or leave it to the Tories, who are the largest party on the council, by the way, who every single meeting I go to, and I know it's the same with Barry, they're absolutely seething, and they cannot wait to get back hold of the council so they can make the cuts that they want to do. They stand up in council saying they want to slash jobs, not hire new people for years, and cut everything back to the very bare bones like they did in Suffolk, and the Easy Council that they had down in Barnet. That's what they're wanting to do, and that's why I feel we have to do this. And, I mean, even if we had the option of just not making the cuts, the fact is, as Dave said, all that happened is we'd go bankrupt and a government team would come down, so you'd have Tories running the council either way. So that's my view on that. Can I just...
One of the things you could do is actually explain, when you're making announcements about what you're doing as a council, is say what you're doing as the alternative to the Tory cuts is. I mean, at the moment, all you seem to be announcing is impending cuts.
Well, that'll become a lot more clear when the Tory budget comes out.
Yeah, you're wrong, actually. And John was wrong too, in my view, in his interpretation of the meeting tonight. Daniel and I represent a working class ward.
Speak up a bit.
Daniel and I represent a working class ward in Calderdale. That's Illingworth and Mixenden, one of the poorest wards in Calderdale. And in the end, although I agree we should explain ourselves here, and that's why we're here, we're really answerable to the electorate, and they're working class people. We were the ones who pushed the BNP back over the last 2 or 3 years in their fortress up in North Halifax. So it's a little bit silly actually to be talking about folk like us wanting to get job cuts or looking to make job cuts, as one of the questions was put. The question that was put tonight was, why are you seeking 1,000 job cuts in Calderdale? Complete drivel. The Labour group is committed in Calderdale to doing everything it can to avoid compulsory redundancies. And the last thing it should do is rush, as you keep on saying, Joe, into making early decisions. We have no idea still what the cuts that the national government are demanding. They say they're going to give the local government settlement next week, but I'd be very surprised if it was clear. Their own councils are rebelling against what they're trying to do, because councils are going to find it difficult to set legal budgets with the way it's all been constructed. What we've tried to do is avoid taking early decisions that are going to be making cuts in services that we would, all of us as a community, regret later on.